Yes, my name is Big Lou, and you're now listening to Go Produce. We're the show that explores how music industry professionals turn their passions into profit. If you want to learn how to get your music placed in movies and television, then this episode is for you. Thank you, Factor, for funding part of this initiative. Today's theme is How did the world of music supervision capture your heart? Our guest for today is Dondrea Erauw, a music supervisor with Instinct Entertainment. They are a music supervision, licensing, and creative consultation company with offices in Toronto and Los Angeles, working with all screen-based filmed media producers and directors worldwide. She's a member of the Television Academy of Arts and Sciences and of the Guild of Music Supervisors. Born near Hamilton, Ontario, educated in London, Ontario, I bring you Dondrea Erauw. Yes. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. I want you to know that we do very much appreciate your time. So let's go ahead and make the most of this. Ready?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll start off with the basics. We have a lot of fun with this one. What do you think of that? You like the transition music?
I love this. I like the dancing in between too. It's great.
Thank you. Feel free to join me. What we're going to do with the basics is I'm going to throw a couple of simple-ish questions so that we can all move forward together. Make sense?
Sounds good.
What is your first musical memory?
Oh, that's a great question.
Well, thank you.
My first musical memory, my parents actually played in a church band when I was little. So I remember my mom singing in the choir and my dad playing guitar and bass. So that's kind of my first memory. But in terms of it for me, probably singing to Celine Dion on my parents' fireplace into a plastic flower child vase. That's probably my first one.
Why Celine Dion? Was she your favorite artist? Was that just like on the radio all the time?
Yeah, my parents were fans of hers and they had her CDs every time they came out. And I was around 3 or 4 when the first few albums came out. And I just loved it. I was a fan.
You picked up anything that looked like a mic and you went for it. Oh. This is a better or worse rendition.
I appreciate it nonetheless.
That's hilarious. That's funny. My next question is, what is the first lesson that the industry taught you?
Organization and professionalism.
It's key, hey? Without maintaining that.
If you don't have it, you won't go anywhere. You need both of those things.
And did you find that once you were in the industry, you had to develop that? Or in order for you to build any kind of credibility within the industry, you have to have that already established?
You definitely have to have that already established. I think the music industry arts program that many people involved in this went to, it helps establish that very early on, where it's like, don't reach out to anybody in the business unless you got your ducks in a row. You know, it's really important that you treat yourself as a business. And it's key to getting anywhere, to be honest.
And for someone who may not know this specifically, how, or do you have any tips on getting yourself organized?
I think it's knowing your audience and knowing what you want to do. It's knowing, where your strengths lie, what you're interested in doing, and networking around that, learning, from the people who are successfully doing those things, trying to make connections with those people, and just being as professional as possible. Like, writing good emails goes a long way these days, and people forget these things.
Mm-hmm. Don't say yo.
Yeah.
Literally. It's small things like that.
Don't say yo. Don't copy and paste emails. Put extra effort into who you're contacting and reaching out to. It will literally make or break an opportunity, I think.
And a lot of the times, these professionals, as they're trying to establish themselves, they don't realize that each one of these interactions is very crucial, no matter how little it may be. And it does add up. You don't just, from the get-go, get in, correct?
Right. Correct.
It takes a lot of time to transition. Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. What firsts are you currently pursuing?
Say that again.
Are you pursuing any firsts in particular? Like new things that challenge you that you haven't done previously, or in the future you want to accomplish?
Yeah. I mean, I also have, futuristic goals for myself as a music supervisor. But for me, I've been doing this for almost a decade. But I recently moved out to Los Angeles a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So for me right now, it's obviously like making connections with directors and filmmakers and people who don't know who I am or who the company I work for or what we do. So for me, it's reaching out to those people and trying to get hired on projects. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Hard to do during a pandemic.
Oh, I hear you. The networking game has
but
changed.
but a step at a time. Yeah.
As long as we're moving forward, one step at a time.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
exactly. You got to move forward. Dondrea, we are moving nicely into our next segment. Wow. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. We've made it to What's Yo Take. What we're going to do in What's Yo Take is I'm going to throw 3 semi-ridiculous points at you, and we want your perspective. Cool. No
All
more
right.
games, no more trivia, just conversation.
All right, I can handle that.
All right. Taking calculated risks or following your instincts is the quickest way to grow. What's your take?
Yeah, I'd say that's a good way to grow. Yeah.
So the reason I asked this is because you received an offer right before graduating Fanshawe, and you had to make a decision there. Can you enlighten us a little bit on that decision before I ask the following questions?
Yeah. I said yes, obviously, because I wanted to get a job in the industry. They don't come around very often. So, I wasn't finished with my final year of MIA. I had a couple of months to go, but the programmer of the MIA, Steve Mallison at the time, he encouraged me to go and do it. And he said, come back and write your exams. And I said, all right. So I didn't have a place to live in Toronto. I slept on a friend of a friend's futon for like a month until I could find an apartment.
Yeah.
Yes, I did what I could. My mother dropped me off at this strange person's house and was like, are you sure you're good? I'm like, yep, I got it. I got this all covered.
Yeah.
Not knowing what I was doing, obviously. But it helped me get my first gig, which then turned into a full-time thing. And then now I'm doing what I'm doing. So yeah, I think, taking risks, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations is very important.
You say uncomfortable, but also it almost felt right that you were doing it, no?
Yes. I wouldn't have done anything else, for sure.
Yeah. That's where
I knew that it was what I needed to do.
And there was some kind of thought process behind it. There was some calculations behind it. That's why I wanted to throw in the calculated risk approach as opposed to like just doing whatever on a whim because it seems like a good idea. There is a difference to that. Do you think
100%?
Do you think if you didn't take that risk, you would have still found yourself on this path? Not necessarily with Instinct Entertainment, but as a music supervisor?
Probably at some point. I think that I would have found my way there. But my position at Instinct came through me being at Casablanca. So again, I don't know that it would have been exactly through Instinct, but I'm sure I would have tried to get myself into the supervision
in that world
situation. That was the goal all along.
Nice. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about Instinct? We've got 4 team members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Instinct Entertainment is a music supervision company based out of Toronto. I obviously represent us here in LA. We license music and TV and film, mostly. So basically we're hired by directors, producers, or networks to help them creatively find the music, but also do the like administrative side. So like licenses and clearancing.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of a difference between music supervision and publishing?
Yeah, so music publishers represent a specific catalog. They work with writers specifically. They handle a lot of copyright and royalties. They own copyright. So basically publishers, depending on the deal that they're setting up with their writers or artists, they're taking a percentage of that copyright. So they're also pitching to music supervisors to get their songs in projects where music supervisors are collecting the music, not only from publishers and labels and stuff, but we're collecting the songs to pitch for projects. So music supervisors don't own any copyright in music. We're just sending songs along, hoping that they'll get licensed. We get paid by the production companies and the networks, not by the artists or the syncs that come through.
And that obviously depends per project. It's not like a steady stream. It's
yeah.
project-based.
So Instinct is technically like a freelance company. So we get hired, and our fees change depending on who's hiring us. If it's a bigger project, we obviously get more coming through, and if it's more independent or a micro budget project, which we've worked on, we get paid directly from the production company or the producers that are putting things together.
Okay, cool. Is there almost a fixed cost for landing a placement in a song, or is it long-term residuals?
That's a great question. So there's no fixed fee, but basically what happens if you do get a sync, whether it's in Canada or the States or anything, you're going to get an upfront licensing fee. So that could be anywhere from like $1,000 to $10,000 to more if you're in advertising. That's where the money is in advertising. So you get that upfront fee, and then there's obviously the back end as well. So as long as you're registered with a performance rights organization, then you will collect your money on the back end as well. So anytime that show or project is aired somewhere, you're going to collect royalties from SOCAN as well.
Good to know. Good to know. Specifically at Instinct, your approach is towards TV, film, shows. Do you have a strategic partner that deals with advertising, or do you just not deal with that world at all?
We have done a very few advertisements. We've done a couple for OLG. So we've done some for that in Ontario, and we've done some for the Olympics, but that hardly ever do we do advertisements. There's like advertising supervisors in Toronto, as well as advertising houses that work more in that field. So our focus is definitely TV and film.
Okay. And then to match your focus in TV and film, how do you build your catalog
of projects?
Well, I mean, I know songs and artists, you're looking through different places. I'm going to guess Spotify, probably a couple of bloggers. You probably have actual people giving you other suggestions. What does that look like?
Yeah, so where we collect our music. Like you said, it's all over. A lot of music supervisors tend to like do the research themselves, and like you said, look through Spotify or artists that they're interested in, or word of mouth, or hearing them from a blog or something. So that's definitely a great place. But we're also sent many emails a day from,
I can imagine,
pitch licensing companies that we either have relationships with or that we don't have relationships with, as well as artists emailing us and managers emailing us. So we get music sent from everybody.
Probably very overwhelming.
All over the world.
Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
On platforms like Spotify, what kind of searches do you do? Are you just going through the new music releases, or do you dive into it?
You asked me about going down rabbit holes. That's one I go down in Spotify, is a lot of like, clicking on a track and going to like radio and seeing what pops up, and just going down rabbit holes in that sense, where you listen to like one artist, you're like, oh, this is really cool. I wonder who else kind of either sounds like this band or is similar to this band. And then you kind of just keep going down
you may
rabbit
also
holes.
like,
and you just like find new bands that you like.
Yeah. What about blogs? Are there any particular blogs that you would recommend other people check out for this kind of material?
Well, it's not blogs in terms of like pitching your music up there. It's more of like new music that's coming out that people are excited about.
Yeah.
Which I will never tell where I
go. Fair.
It's a secret.
Fair. That's a trick of the trade, a secret of the trade. That's fair. I can appreciate that. That's jokes.
I love it.
How many, this is a for fun question, how many songs in a day would you say you can go through? Or for a project?
Goodness.
Whatever makes sense.
Well, it depends on how many projects I'm working on at a time. If I'm working on more than one and I have more than a couple of scenes to send songs for, it could be anywhere from like 50 songs to like 1,000 songs or more for that. So it'll depend on a daily
Yeah.
basis
Yeah.
on what I'm sending. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What's your take on involving community in your work?
Oh, I love that question. It's so to me, it's really important. At Instinct, it is for as a whole. I will speak on behalf of everybody that we definitely take pride in licensing Canadian artists, Toronto artists. Anytime I know someone has like been from MIA, I love to like help, artists who come from that program just because I know, the program, what it's like
Yeah.
coming out of the city, wanting some opportunities and how hard everyone's working. So I definitely take pride in making sure I do research on those things and pitch them when I can, when it makes sense.
That's awesome. I know people coming up always appreciate that. Me myself. What about Raw?
Oh my gosh. I miss Raw. So Raw, it was a lovely in-office experience where we had artists who were either coming through town or who lived in Toronto to come and play our studio loft space.
Yeah.
We do not have the office anymore, sadly, because I'm out here and the pandemic and all of these things. So everyone's working from home now. But it was a very special time. We would host these afternoon acoustic sessions, or we had Lucy Dacus come through one time, which blew my mind because now she's blowing up and
Yeah.
doing wonderful things. But
Yeah.
having her play with just an acoustic guitar in our space, it's so magical. Having music lovers listening to people come through town, and we had snacks out, and we would invite other people from the community and some directors that we worked with, and we would all just kind of like hang out and listen to music. I miss it. It was
Sounds like a
good
horrible
times.
time.
Yeah, it was garbage.
No, amazing, beautiful. And because of COVID and because of moving, perhaps you are aware of other cool initiatives where creatives can come together and collaborate. Are you familiar with anything currently like that?
Like Raw.
I know Raw was more intimate in a physical space, but perhaps online communities or other events that you've seen where the creative
Hmm.
can tune in.
I mean, I've been really enjoying the like colors segment through YouTube. I don't know if anyone's seen it,
I
but
haven't heard it yet.
it's like beautiful loft space where artists come through and sing their songs basically a cappella in a room, and it's really well produced, and the talent that comes through is incredible.
Yeah.
Uh, it's definitely difficult to get on. Like you gotta you gotta have somebody to get you in on it, but
Right.
it's one I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah. Even if you're not
Hmm.
on it, it's cool to observe and experience it. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let me check this real quick. Yes, one more point on specifically Instinct. You've co-created and co-produced the Side Street project, celebrating and time-stamping music, creating a unique space for artists to collaborate. Does that tie into what Raw is? I just wanted to clarify that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. No. So the Side Street project actually I had nothing to do with. Michael Perlmutter, who owns Instinct, came up
Yeah.
with this concept called the Side Street project, which was uh, a live studio session where he got Canadian artists to cover other Canadian songs. So I think he had like he would just get one person from one band. So like say he would grab like Hannah George's, and then maybe he would grab like Brendan from Broken Social Scene and like someone else to like cover a Neil Young song. And it was a really cool experience to just watch Canadian talent cover other Canadian talent.
Right.
And it was like a whole studio production where they filmed these artists playing live basically. But it was so long ago, and he's hoping to do it again at some point in the future.
Yeah.
We just haven't gotten around to it. But yeah, it's definitely separate from
From
Raw.
what Raw was. Okay. Yeah, no, it looks like a
Mhm.
very cool or it looked like a cool initiative. Before we move on to our final segment, I want to know do you have any tips or tricks for an upcoming artist to finds their way onto exclusive initiatives such as Color?
Ooh, honestly, I think most of those things, like, it's good to have management behind you and like a team to like help kind of put those things together for you if you're attempting to do it yourself. I think it's just researching like different opportunities. I can attest or at least give feedback on, what it's like as an independent artist trying to get your music in sync, more so than maybe like performing opportunities, because I'm not really familiar with like a lot of them that are going on.
Yeah.
But in terms of like pitching music and trying to get opportunities that way, it's obviously doing the research and like looking up the different music supervisors on projects that maybe you've watched or that you like, and finding out who that person is. IMDb is your best friend for that. If you like a film or a TV series, you just go to the cast and crew section, find out who the music supervisor is, look them up, and try and put together a professional email.
Yo, what's up, Dondrea? Not that.
Correct.
That's nice.
A professional and thoughtful email, and it'll go a long way. I will say that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's jump into our next segment. Our next segment is called Clear the Air.
What ominous music.
It's about to go down. We're trying to get you ready.
For such a pretty sign. It's like very...
See, we need to get better. We need to get better. That's it. We're out here. We're out here. We're having a time.
I love it.
We started talking about almost professionally reaching out to music supervisors. So why don't we start it there?
Mm-hmm.
Clear the air on this. Oh, I suppose I can tell you what clear the air is, how it differs. Clear the air, we're going to throw scenarios on you where people... You see why we can't have nice things? Because this grumpy sound guy is always doing these kinds of things. All right. So, Dondrea, you've disappeared on the screen. Can you just say
I'm
hi?
here.
Okay, nice. So clear the air is essentially 3 topics that we're going to throw towards you so that people can find a lot of educational value from here. It's almost a brainstorm, if you will.
Love it.
Clear the air on this. Artists should compare reaching out to a music supervisor for the first time to dating.
Yeah. No, I will say yes, because you want me to elaborate. Yes.
I do very much.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anytime reaching out to a stranger, you have to be, kind and empathetic and understand that the person you're contacting is another human being, and you have to be able to read the room. And if something feels uncomfortable, then you don't want to poke the bear. You just want to step back, let them have some breathing room. And yeah, you want to be respectful. And definitely, I think comparing it to dating is pretty fair.
These were your words from a previous article. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I have said that before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fair for the artist or the band to assume that the music supervisor knows who you are?
No, I don't think it's fair to assume. I hope that they would know before contacting me, but I don't want to assume that everyone knows.
Right. And in terms of professionalism, emails are good, but what about video? Like, I send a little video and I can use that as an attachment in the email that I sent you as well to show like personality and energy and that kind of stuff. Do you like that at all?
No attachments in an email.
None. Deal.
Big no.
Yeah. What about links?
Links are fine. So here's what I always suggest. I always tell people, obviously know who you're emailing. I've gotten so many times where it's like, hey, I watched the show that you supervised. I loved it. And I didn't work on that project. I'm like, do you even know who you're emailing? Like, Get your people straight, get the project straight, maybe watch some of the things that these people worked on, and include a streaming link and a zip to a download link. And I'll tell you why. Both of these things are very helpful because every supervisor works differently. So some people prefer to download right away and throw it into their iTunes or whatever player they're using and listen to it later. where other people want to stream it first to see if they like it, and then, maybe they'll download it. By providing options, you're saving a step of the supervisor having to ask you to send you those things. So you just want to make it as easy as possible. And when I say zip link, like a link to download, like Dropbox or Google Drive or WeTransfer, there's a great program called Disco. If no one has heard of it, it's amazing. You can use it as a media player, but you can also include your metadata on it, which is very important when pitching your songs to anybody. You need to say if you are a one-stop shop, basically meaning you own your master recordings and you own the publishing rights, and a contact info, like an email address to reach you. Because for me, I personally like to download stuff. If I hear a song a year from now or 6 months from now in my library, and I'm like, this is what I've been looking for all day, who is this? And there's no contact information, I have no way of reaching that person, and I'm definitely not going to waste my time trying to find them on the internet, because don't have time for that.
Fair.
So yes, very important to do those things. I always recommend both because it looks professional and you're providing options. And yes, that is my advice and tip.
Perfect. So you have an artist come and do that to you, and they cross all their T's, they dot all their I's, and you like them. What does the process look like once you find them? What's the onboarding process like? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if I like an email someone has sent and I've never heard from them before, and I check out their music, I will always check out the music very briefly and quickly if the email is great. Always, always, always. And if the music's great too, I'm going to respond. And I will save the songs in my folder. It obviously depends on what I personally am working on project-wise at the time. But if the music is on par with something I'm working on, say Private Eyes, which is a global series featuring Jason Priestley and Cindy Sampson.
Nice.
I license a lot of Canadian artists on that show. So I definitely love to get independent artists on there when I can. So I basically will just save the songs in a specific folder for me to go to when I'm working scene to scene, and pitch the songs from there. And if the picture editor likes it and the director likes it and the network likes it and it's going to get used, then I go through a series of pretty simple standard paperwork to clear the song. And then the production will send a check in the mail.
Nice. That's my favorite part. No,
in summary, but as quickly as I possibly can. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah. Makes sense. Do you have clients on retainer?
No. I have people I go to for briefs if I know what I'm looking for, and I know they probably have it based on a budget, but I don't have anything on retainer. No.
Okay. And you said that when you're being introduced to an artist and you like their email, you check out their songs really quickly. How much time do you spend on the songs? Is it just like a quick 30-second hook or even less?
Yeah, I tend to listen to the first few seconds, and if the production's good, then I'll probably skip to see what the vocals sound like, check out the chorus, check out the end of the song if there's any dynamics or any changes or shifts in the song. Yeah, usually it's between 15 to 20 seconds of listening to a song. That's being generous also.
Fair enough. Is it easier typically working with indie artists versus those that are signed?
So this is a really good question, because sometimes the answer is yes and sometimes the answer is absolutely not.
Interesting.
The reason why I would say yes is because obviously if it's a one-stop, if I'm going to, like, say you, for example, if you have a track and I'm clearing it with you, and maybe you're in a band and you represent the band as a whole, you can just sign off on a song very quickly for me and probably be flexible about budgets and want the opportunity and want to work together and create that relationship. So in that sense, it's easy. And also I get pride in helping independent artists who maybe have never had a sync before. So there's that too. But there's the other side of it where artists are not great at getting back on time. They don't have their instrumentals together. They don't know what the process is like. And I have to also explain it as I'm doing it, which is, it takes time. So having that representation, even if it's not a label, there are like third party sync licensing reps out there who basically will represent your songs and pitch them to music supervisors and only take a percentage of a sync fee if it actually lands. So you don't like pay them to pitch songs. They just take a cut if something
if it does go
actually lands. And to me, that's like the best way to get your music to our ears, because we have relationships with those people already. And if your music's good enough, then someone will probably want to go around and pitch it, because they'll probably have opportunities to get syncs for you. But yes, there's that side of it where we kind of prefer to deal with people who are going to get back to us really quickly, who understand our budgets, and who are going to be like speedy with responses.
For artists that do have a team or that they are assigned, are you typically speaking to the manager or record labels or both?
If they're signed to a label, then I'm talking to the label themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. If they're unsigned, then it's usually management or the artist directly.
Right. Got you. We've got another question. This one is from one of our listeners. I just got to pull this up for you. If you can't hear it, let me know and I can repeat it for you. Cool?
Yep.
At Instinct Entertainment, you focus on TV and film. How does the work you do differ from music supervision companies that focus on advertising? Do you have strategic partners that focus on the advertising side?
Yeah. So again, we don't, at Instinct, we don't work too much on the advertising side. If we do, it's an advertising house that's hiring us to basically help find songs for the spot. Usually these advertising supervisors, have been doing it for a long time and they have their clientele in that sense. So they're hired continuously, usually by the same advertising houses. So for us at Instinct, we are hired by producers, directors, and networks up front. So if it's a Netflix series, we're either getting hired by Netflix directly, or we're getting hired because a showrunner, producer, or director is asking Netflix to hire us.
Right.
So for us, on that sense, like that's kind of how we get hired on projects and how it differs from advertising. We don't really do it too often, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I want you to clear the air on this. First and foremost, you did work on a movie recently called Kiss and Cry, where you won a Canadian Guild of Music Supervisors award for Best Music Supervision in a feature film. Can you tell us what that experience was like in terms of working with them and that experience ultimately?
Yeah. It was a very lovely experience because Kiss and Cry is based on a true story of Carly in Toronto, who suddenly got cancer and ended up passing away. And she was a very talented figure skater, and she was going to go off to the Olympics. And it's the girl who ended up playing her in the film was her best friend in real life. So there was this very this deep sense of love and appreciation for her on this film. So I was very honored to help find the music and clear the music for this, because Carly was also a singer and music was a really big part of her life. So it was very honoring to help her legacy and her family kind of put together this soundtrack of music that we think she would have been really into. And some of the artists we got in there, she actually was a really big fan of. So it was a really different project compared to the other things that I work on, because of it just being a true story.
So intimate, yeah.
Very moving, yeah.
I watched it after I came across your work. You recommended it. Firstly, I cried the whole time. But when I found out that Sarah and Carly were actually best friends, it hit a different way. It was very cool. So I'm guessing you were able to interact with the cast and the singers and the family and all of that as well?
Yeah, so I had to deal with her father to license actually the songs Carly wrote, because we got to use some of her original songs in the film. So I had to deal with her father to get the rights to use Carly's song in the film. And then I also worked very closely with Sarah, because Sarah was also a producer on the film. And I obviously knew her through Degrassi as well, because Sarah was on Degrassi, which is another show we work on. And yeah, I got to work with her very closely, and we obviously had to do some recording in advance, and we were involved pretty early on, but it was really special.
That sounds very special.
Yeah.
Do you prefer working on movies like that, or like heartfelt movies, or do you have a knack for different genres?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that one's very, very special, and I don't know that anything will come around like that again. Uh, I do have a knack though for working on all types of stuff. I really do love film. The reason why I love film so much is because you get a little bit more time to finesse and mold and shape the soundtrack for a film. You have more time to spend with the characters and really find the right songs. Where television sometimes moves so fast that you might find a song that everyone really loves, but deep down you might be like, I think I could beat that song. I know, I bet you I could beat it, but I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And everyone's happy, so
Submit it and
let's
go,
move
yeah.
on. Yeah, yeah. So the pace is very different for TV than it is compared to film, but I really love working on films.
Very cool. You are a member of the Television Academy of Arts and Scientists, Academy of Arts and Sciences, and also of the Guild of Music Supervisors. What are each of these communities?
Yes, the TV Academy is basically the Emmys. So that means I've worked on enough projects to be able to vote for the Emmys, which is very fun. Every year I get to vote in all categories,
Ooh,
which is incredible. And I also get to submit as a music supervisor to the Emmys every year. They now have a category for Best Music Supervision. Um, that's what the TV Academy is.
yeah,
The Guild of Music Supervisors is basically a community in Canada. They have it in the States as well as the UK, but it's members who are music supervisors in said country. So it's basically a non for profit guild
right.
for us to communicate as a community and discuss maybe ongoing issues we might be having within the music industry, or issues as supervisors. The Guild of Music Supervisors in the States, for example, was pushing for the Emmys to give music supervisors a category for a very, very long time. And this recently happened about 3 years ago. So the Guild in the US push to get that opportunity. So that's kind of what the Guild does. It's like trying to create better opportunities for supervisors,
Yeah.
trying to get us paid more money because music is so key and integral.
Yes.
And also supervisors' jobs are very stressful and demanding, and we're kind of working around the clock and dealing with a lot of negotiations and clearances and last minute replacements and stuff. And yeah, the Guild is just a community for all of us to kind of have each other's back.
That's awesome. We like that. We like that. And the Guild, the Canadian Guild at least, recently had their inaugural Sound and Vision Education Week. You were a panelist?
I was a producer
You were a
of the whole
producer?
event and a
How did that
panelist,
go?
yes. Thank you so much for researching this in advance and talking about it. That makes me very happy. We just finished it like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. It was amazing. It was the first time we put anything like it on. We did 5 days of virtual panels. We had 11 panels in total, and 2 artists perform. And all of the panels were basically educational for people who are maybe interested in supervision or getting their songs synced to picture, or people who are interested in becoming composers or picture editors, or working with like directors and kind of understanding what it's like to work on a project for TV and film, as well as advertisement. We had an advertising panel. It was all free, with donations being made to a couple Canadian charities. And it was great. I understand the tech side of things a lot more now.
Yeah.
Zoom is not my best friend.
It's a learning curve everywhere. Yep.
But yeah, it was really incredible. We're hoping to put the panels up on our Guild of Music Supervisors Canada YouTube page once we
Ooh.
get clearance. We have to approve everyone's faces and all the songs and clips used. So we have to get permission to do that, which we're in the works of right now. But it was really great, and we hope to do it again next fall.
Ooh, fantastic. That was my next question. I was wondering how frequent it may be occurring, but next fall you will count me in. Previously, we did touch on this a little bit, but can you clear the air a little bit more on what artists and bands should not do when trying to contact you, a music supervisor?
Yep, I can do that for you. Obviously, putting the wrong name in an email, wrong projects, attaching MP3s, writing a huge novel. Not best to write a really long email. You want to keep it short and sweet, and obviously do the research on who you're contacting. I personally don't love when people reach out to me over social media. A lot of people say that it's okay to do so, but I personally don't love it because I use it for, personal things. I don't use it for finding
Business,
for biz. So I personally feel like it's important to like do the research and find a way to contact online and through an email. It's just more professional in my standpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely not pretending like you know somebody either. It's like if you're emailing someone for the first time, you need to like properly introduce yourself and say like, hey, this is who I am. I found out that you were a supervisor because I watched this thing, or I came across, a tweet or like an article or something, like some sort of like, here's how I know of you.
Yeah.
Here is who I am. Here's my stuff.
Yeah.
I hate it when people email me for the first time and they're like, how was your week? And I'm like, who are you? Have I emailed you before? Like,
My week has been great.
I don't know who you are.
Delete. That's funny.
Who is this? But I'm extra picky about it because I have been on the other side of it. And when I see people don't put in the time and effort to like properly send an email to the people they're emailing, I just don't have patience or time for it because I've been on the other side of it.
Of course. If they don't have time for that, what makes them think that you have time for picking up on the low quality that they're delivering?
Tech guy, please give a ding, 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 ding.
He's asleep on the job again. This is why we don't pay him very much.
Got it.
That's jokes. When you do come across a song that you do like with an artist that you do like, but you don't have a placement for them yet, do you still onboard them? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, if I love an artist a lot and I just don't have a spot for it, it's going in a folder where I know I can go back to it. My iTunes is very organized. I have a place for many things. So if I love something and I just don't have a spot for it, it's going to have a special place in my world until I do, for sure.
Interesting. And then you hope to have the artist's contact so that you can reach out then.
Yes. And if I don't have, this happens a lot too, where I come across a band I really, really love, or I've never heard of them before, or I want to use one of their songs and I'll contact them myself. Like I'll go to their Facebook page and look up an email address, or go to their website and find an email address. Please put your email addresses on the internet. I hate those like blank forums where it's like, please put your name and email and send us a contact. I'm like, no,
I refuse.
Give me your email address somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about what we do, who we are, what we're about, and want to get your music from you. I've done that a lot. If your music's good enough, people will find it.
Yeah, I'm hearing that often. Do you ever, or have you ever had an artist reject a placement that you presented to them?
Yes. Mostly because of the content that was going on in the scene, where a character was like taking a pill and this artist was like, I can't have anything to do with drugs. Absolutely not. I don't want to partake in that. So that is a rare situation, but depending on the content and what's happening in it, people pass, or if the fee's too low and it's a really big artist, there's that too, where they're like, thanks, but no thanks.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I'm gonna ask the back of house. Any questions? Grumpy Sound Guy, you got any questions?
I think you have done a good job for a change, so I'm good.
Okay. If that's the case, I've got one more question for Clear the Air. Who decides the fee when doing payments?
Good question. I do.
Hey!
A supervisor does.
I'll give you this right now.
There it is. She decides. What does that
say
decision
because
process look like?
the music supervisor has a budget to work with. So if it's a TV series, we basically have X amount of dollars per episode. Most of the time, if it's not a music heavy episode, those funds can roll over and you can still use them in other episodes.
Oh, cool.
So basically, I have to distinguish if an artist is like signed to a label or a major publisher. Like, it's going to cost more than it would if it was an independent artist. So depending on the songs that are being used, it's my job to work within that budget. So it'll depend on how music heavy a project is. But basically, as a supervisor, you're in control of managing all of that, which can be a whole other task.
I can imagine. How does the fee get figured out from the TV movie budget then?
They have people on their side that put all of that together.
No, sorry, I meant like for your fee.
Oh, for our fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most supervisors, not most, but a good amount of them have agents who deal with negotiating on what the supervisor's fee should be when getting hired on something.
Did not know that. Interesting.
Not everyone does. Not everyone does. And sometimes they have to negotiate themselves, which can be a little awkward because as a supervisor, it kind of works the same way. It's like you don't want to ask for too much, but you also don't want to undersell yourself. So it's a position of trying to make sure you're getting paid for the work. And it will depend on how music heavy a project is.
Right.
There's a lot of music and a lot of clearances you got to do. You're probably going to get paid more than if it's only a few songs, you know?
Yeah.
But
is it typically like a percentage of the gross amount, or do they give you a fixed amount because of all the work you're going to do and then you move forward with the work?
It'll be like a fixed amount. So if it's for TV, you basically get like X amount of dollars per episode.
Got you.
And if it's for a film, then you're just going to get a set fee
for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do they pay the set fee all at once, or is it in installments?
It's usually in installments, basically. Nice. It's not all at once.
For tax purposes, you know. Had to ask.
For many purposes, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. With that, Dondrea, we have reached the end of Clear the Air. Do you have any closing remarks you'd like to share?
You're doing a wonderful job.
Why, thank you so much.
That's all I have to say is that, like, you're such
She was talking to me, obviously. Thank you.
The whole team. It's great.
Big shout out to the whole team. Where can our listeners find you? We know not on social media, perhaps.
They can find me on social media. I just don't love when people are like, hey, check out my songs. And then they copy and paste it to like the same people. But I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter. I give a lot of feedback on Twitter, actually. I give a lot of like, please don't do this. Or please, here's a great example of this. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram
what's your handle?
Too. It's at Dondrea. DAWNZDREA.
Okay, perfect. And we will make sure that is in our show notes so that all of you beautiful listeners can follow. That being said,
and
thank you to
check out Instinct Entertainment too. You can go to Instinct Entertainment. You can go to instinctentertainment.ca.
Beautiful, beautiful. We'll have that included. Anything else?
That's all.
That's all. With that being said, thank you to our listeners. We very much enjoy you guys joining us week in and week out. Shout out to our very own Grumpy Sound Guy. You made us giggle today, I'd say.
Yeah, boy!
Yeah. Shout out to Prevail Media Group for the facility and the time and the energy. You guys rock it. And biggest thank you to Dondrea. Thank you so much for joining us today. We out.
Thank you for having me. Love it.
Thank you for listening. If you found any value in this episode and you want to learn more from our content, check out our website at goproduce.ca. If you're on Instagram, check out our handle at go.produce. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, hit download. If you're on Apple Music, leave a review. This will all help us grow our community. I'm Big Lou, and this is Go Produce.